Senator Shaheeen, you've been the staunch supporter of women's rights in Afghanistan. Secretary of State Mr. Blinken at the NATO conference, at the end of NATO conference, in a press conference, said that they're reviewing the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan. The withdrawal is under review. What is your biggest fear if they decide to stay longer or leave based on Doha agreement?
Well, I think I have serious reservations, as I've said, about the Doha agreement, because it's not clear to me that it commits to ensuring that women's rights and human rights for all Afghans are maintained as they have been defined in the Afghan constitution. I also am concerned that we have not held the Taliban's feet to the fire and made withdrawal conditions based. What we have seen is continued violence in Afghanistan. In the last month or so, we've seen targeted assassinations of women who are working and are a critical part of civil society in the country. And yet those assassinations have basically gone unanswered. The Taliban needs to be held accountable for that violence. And I don't think American withdrawal that leaves a free opportunity for the Taliban to take control is something that makes sense after all of the treasure and commitment and changes that have happened in the country. So much of it has been so positive. To have that undermined because of a precipitous withdrawal, I think doesn't make sense.
So, as you mentioned, that there is no indication of, or there no mention of human and women's rights in the agreement between the United States and Taliban. Now that Democrats have the control of both House and Senate, do you and other Democrats use this advantage to amend the agreement and to include guarantees for preserving women's rights?
Well, the agreement hasn't been brought to Congress, but what we do have the opportunity to do is to focus with the administration, the new administration, on the importance of ensuring that women are part of the negotiations, not just in terms of what the Taliban is doing, but also in terms of what the Afghan government is doing to ensure that women have a place in the Afghan government's discussions. I think is critical. And we have a law in America now that's called the Women, Peace and Security Act that is designed to ensure that in conflict areas that women are at the table in those negotiations. And the data behind that law is really telling, because what it points out is that when women are at the negotiating table, that agreements tend to last longer and be accepted better by people in the country. And so there's good reason to say that women should be at the table. And again, what we don't want is to see women's rights totally undermined. We want to see girls continue to be able to go to school. We want to see the human rights of all Afghans protected. And I've had the opportunity to make my case to the new Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, to raise it with the new Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, to raise it with several of the nominees to be deputies and undersecretaries within the Department of State and Defense, and also to raise it with the National Security Council and the staff at the White House to make it very clear that this is something that we need to pay attention to. And as I said in a hearing a couple of weeks ago before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I was very disappointed to see the reappointment of Ambassador Khalilzad, who has not made a commitment to ensure that women are at the table. And now that we have a new administration, it's on the new administration to ensure that any negotiations include women, and that Ambassador Khalilzad makes that a priority for what he's negotiating with the parties.
How likely it is for the U.S. to just walk away from this Doha agreement?
How likely is it for the United States to walk away?
For the United States. How likely it is for the United States to just walk away from Doha agreement?
I think it would be very hard to do that, because I think there are parties in the United States, and I think everybody, and what I've heard in my last visit to Afghanistan, which was in 2019, but I don't think the sentiment has changed very much. I talked to a number of Afghans, both in the government, and met with women leaders there. And what they all said to me is that we're tired of war. We want an end to war. We want a peace, but we want a peace that's going to provide real peace, not continued violence, that's going to ensure that people's rights continue to be protected. And at this point, it's not clear that the Doha Agreement is going to give us that. So we need to keep working on it.
What role, if any, can U.S. government and Congress play to make sure that the 2 decades achievements of Afghanistan government and Afghan people are preserved and protected, and any future power sharing government with Taliban?
Well, again, that's why I think our troop withdrawals and the withdrawal of NATO forces need to be conditions based. It needs to be clear to the Taliban that we're not leaving until they do what they committed to do in the Doha Agreement. So I hope that that's the conclusion that the president's going to come to. It's what I've been saying, and what I think a lot of people who have been watching the situation in Afghanistan have been saying. It does not make sense for us to withdraw, not just because of Afghanistan, which is very important, but also because of the United States and our national security. We all remember that 9/11 happened, was planned in Afghanistan because of Al-Qaeda's relationship with the Taliban. And as far as I can tell, even though the Doha Agreement says that relationship needs to end, it's not at all clear that that's the case. And so we need to make it very clear that we are not going to leave until we see conditions improve.
Senator Shaheen, Afghan women consider you as their greatest advocate. They are saying that the advance or success of Afghan women are the success of women around the world. They're saying that their women's right should not be sacrificed for the sake of the expediency. What do you say to them?
I say amen to that, and that's, again, what I heard when I was in Afghanistan from the women leaders that I met with, that they were reasonable, they understand the challenges, but they want to ensure that their rights are protected, and they should be. And what we know about countries that empower women is that they are more successful. They tend to have more people working, more opportunities for children, more better education for members, a better gross domestic product for the country, better economic conditions, all of those things if women are empowered. So it's in everybody's interest to do this. And I hope that we're going to see a recommitment on the part of the administration to ensure that, and to reassure Afghans that we are not leaving until we see that those conditions are going to be met.
This question is coming from Afghan women, to be specific, from Afghan Women Network. They want to know, you actually mentioned before, how can the Congress monitor the implementation of the U.S. Women, Peace and Security Act to ensure Afghan women's meaningful participation and inclusion in all aspects of the peace process is supported, not by the statements, but by the action of the State Department, DOD, USAID, and other agencies?
Well, I've had a chance to, because I also serve on the Armed Services Committee, I've also had a chance to talk to Secretary Austin. We had the new head of the Indo-Pacific region before the committee this week, and I asked him about the commitment of DOD and of his command to ensuring that women are participating. And he reiterated the very forward reaching efforts of his command to do trainings to ensure that women are part of whatever our troops are doing in that region. And we have seen the same kind of support from our military that have been in Afghanistan. So we have a responsibility in Congress to ensure that the law that was passed, that has been implemented, continues to be implemented in a way that ensures that women are participating.
If you're to right now looking at Afghan women, what would you say to them?
Hold on, continue to take your rightful place in civil society in Afghanistan and in the government. Obviously, we are not going to see a resolution to the 40 years of war in the country unless women have a rightful place in society. And so for all of the women who have been in leadership positions, who have been fighting this fight for such a long time, know that you're not alone, that there are women in the United States and around the world who support you in this effort and are going to keep fighting for you.
Senator, is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, I think you covered it very well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks very much.
Have a wonderful day.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you so much, Sarah.